welcome to News and Views. I'm John Banville. Our guest this week is Senator Joe Robach. Senator Robach, thank you very much for taking time to be here.
I always appreciate the opportunity to fill folks in that want to watch this at home on what's going on. And clearly right now, we're completing a very, very important document, the state budget.
That's what I wanted to ask you about. Right now, we have, in previous shows, discussed the importance of creating jobs, of holding the line on taxes, of protecting the need, of balancing the needs of working families with those of taxpayers. Senator Robach, where are we in the budget process, and how do you feel about this document? Does it achieve those goals?
Yeah, I'm very happy to say that while we're in the process, we've passed half the budget now. Today and tomorrow we'll finish passing a budget. Though people may be watching this on a delay, the budget is completed, the bills are printed, it is done, and I think this really creates a fiscally responsible plan for all New Yorkers. It met the global needs of New Yorkers, but it really did take into account very much taxpayers and what I believe in here very frequently, the overburdened working families, men and women, people on a fixed income who are very, very concerned with their bottom line costs. This budget really is the second consecutive budget in a row that, again, did strategic spending, but was fiscally responsible and did not raise any new taxes or fees. And I think that really is the right thing, but even more importantly, very responsive to the people I represent in Rochester and Monroe County, who very frequently talk about the need to control that spending and to try to keep more money with them than with the state government. I think that's important, and I would say, because I think it needs to be said, this was done in a bipartisan way, but I really applaud Governor Cuomo's leadership in embracing many of the things that the Senate upstate Republicans have talked about for a long time, but even more so being able to negotiate those and getting them passed through the Assembly, who historically has been very reluctant to not raise new taxes and fees, quite frankly. We've had to do that together, and I think that is really, really good. For a long time, and I had put bills in about sequestering the legislature, having last year's budget go into place if people didn't do it. I literally had to put in legislation because previous to these last couple of years, it was such a sign of Albany not doing their job of having budgets be late and people actually getting up. Some of my New York City colleagues saying, and I would rather have the budget be late than not get what I want. I think that's so wrong thinking and wrong-headed. The people I represent, they have to get up every day, go to work, earn their pay, do their job on time. I think the legislature should also. I am very happy to say that with Governor Cuomo working collaboratively in a bipartisan way with the Senate, and now having the Assembly take a very different view, he's helped get that done. I think now, not only are we getting budgets done on time and ones that are fiscally responsible, we're actually doing this one early, which is really becoming almost a sign that Albany's working in full swing again the way it should. I think that's good news for everybody, and happy to be a part of it.
I'd like to discuss the process of, in previous years, there has, I believe you've pointed out that there was a violation in how we were passing our budgets. There were no open conference committee meetings. There was really no transparent negotiations that were going on. Last year, you indicated that changed. This year's budget and how it was negotiated, did it follow the rules? Is it done with transparency? Did people know what's in there?
I'm a big believer in the conference committee process. And while I have nothing per se and understand the role of leadership and their, I guess, heightened sense of a weighted impetus into this process at the same time for not only rank and file members of the legislature, but also for the public. I think it's very, very important that we have that process where it is explained, reports are made, conference committees are given, members are given the opportunity to speak on what they like or don't like in this process and what they choose. And we break it down to different areas. As many people know, I had the privilege of chairing the Human Services Subcommittee. You know, that dialogue and input from activists, citizens, you know, led to us putting more money and shifting money around to put more money back into daycare and, you know, having working moms be able to have daycare for their kids, or at least more of them. We were able to put money back in over what the governor had suggested cutting for the nurse family practitioner program, which I believe is critical to keeping at-risk kids out of very, very bad situations, both in terms of health and in education. A lot of different things, career path items for people. So we did all that, and again, we had several meetings where people, not just myself, but other members of the legislature had to have a chime in. And then people can see that, whether it's media, advocates, and they can go to all the parties, including the leaders and the rank and file members, and say, are you or aren't you going to take that recommendation, or what will you do differently? I think that's important. And again, the leaders are the leaders, but certainly I believe very strongly that geographic input is important, rank and file members, people, and that we should do whatever we can, not only in perception, but in reality, that we get away from that 3 men in a room, which permeated Albany for a long time. We seem to be moving in a different direction, and the results have been great for the people I represent, I feel. So that's all good to me.
Well, it's interesting you bring this up, because for years, when the word dysfunction was ever brought up, the city of Albany was usually tied to it somehow. Mm-hmm. In the last few years, we've had significant changes in the way the government seems to operate, and Albany isn't racked with dysfunction anymore. Mm-hmm. It doesn't appear to be. And Washington, D.C. appears to be the group that is having problems getting their budgets done on time and working in a bipartisan manner. Do you see that continuing in the future? I
hope so. You know, again, those comparisons and things, you know, beauty's in the eyes of the beholder. What I really like about the process is being more open, and whether it's individual work, committee work, people working more collaboratively, we were able to do things, you know, that were very good, I believe, for Rochester. They're getting an accelerated payment for the city of Rochester to help them, the city itself, with their budget situation, which is fairly challenging as well. We were able to cap, you know, take off this mandate, any Medicaid growth from Monroe County. That's going to be great relief to the county executive and property taxpayers in Monroe County. So as the senior population ages, more people go into nursing homes, if the economy remains more challenging and more people need to be on assistance, family health, child health plus, whatever that growth is, that's now going to be paid for by state dollars, not county dollars. It'll give us more of a challenge, but the right thing to do. All that came from people working together. We restored $30 million in the EPIC program. I heard from many, many senior citizens, not only in my district, but outside, who said how important that program was, and in the very, very challenging budget year, how disappointed they were at some of the cuts the executive had made to that program. We've restored $30 million. No copay now will exceed $20 for any medicine for seniors who are eligible for the EPIC program. All those things came from a good process, people working together, trying to hammer things out. I felt very strongly, and I think my colleague Tom Libis, Senator Maziarz, others that spoke up with myself. Now there's not only a Metropolitan Transit Authority plan in place, but also a road and bridge plan and a works plan for upstate New York, not only to invest in our aging bridges, our roads, and our infrastructure, but also a plan to make sure we're getting a fair share of that money back, to stimulate those construction jobs, that engineering, everything that goes with that, and simultaneously invest in infrastructure and job creation, as well as other things. That, to me, was all a result of people speaking up, standing, having the process work the right way. We also increased money to schools by approximately 4%, hopefully continuing, to have great programming in New York for urban and suburban schools. And hopefully that will make a big difference. But I also say, too, not only can that allow the investment in K through 12 education, but that should also be a benefit to local property taxpayers, who certainly pay a share of that, along with what the state puts in, too. So overall, timeliness, openness, content, I think this was a pretty good budget, coming off last year's budget, which was even more challenging, but again, done on time, fiscally responsible. And I can't say it enough, when you take polls, both listening to what people say at meetings, but I know Quinnipiac, Siena polls have been done, and 70% of upstate New Yorkers think the priority was to not raise any more taxes or not add to New Yorkers' tax burden. We were responsive to that. So this really was, in my opinion, I felt, a good budget because it really met the needs of what people were saying in Rochester and Monroe County and upstate New York. When I look at it in that light, in terms of timeliness, content, and impact locally, yeah, I have to applaud everybody involved in the process, and Governor Cuomo as well. So overall, I think people are going to like this, and when you couple that with the property tax cap, and us lowering the income tax rate for middle-class people last year, I think people are really going to see the signs that we're not just saying we hear you, we're actually delivering on that through the budget and in other ways, again, to tell people we want them to stay there, we want their kids to stay here, including my own, and we want the ground to be as fertile as possible for business and job creation as we can make it.
Talking about job creation, one of the programs that you advocated for was the continuation of the regional economic councils. Did that make it into the final budget agreement?
Yeah, I believe that there'll be another round for the Finger Lakes area and other 10 areas of the state to compete for a pool of money, and I think that that's roughly going to be similar to last year, somewhere in that $500 million to $700 million range, that people will be able to compete for different plans. And we've said that time and time again. In addition to County of Monroe Industrial Development Agency, if we can make strategic investments in housing in our colleges and universities, or even use some of that money to entice companies that come from somewhere else to locate in our area with that synergy of optics, a lot of colleges, medical. We want to do that. We want to be competitive as possible. It is all about jobs, jobs, jobs. And again, even though our unemployment is a little bit lower, even dealing with the Kodak situation, a large part of what we try to do every day is make sure people have job opportunities, whether they're moving from a job, looking for another job, or whether there are children, and again, including my own, coming out of school, college, wanting to stay in the area. We want them to have those opportunities.
Senator Robach, I want to congratulate you for getting the budget done in a timely and effective manner. And I want to thank you very much for taking the time, telling our viewers what it means for them.
Thank you, John.
We'll see you soon.
Okay.